Hi, Nika.
Hello, how are you?
Good. What's shaking?
Oh, coffee this morning. Trying to get the brain
You're,
activated fully.
you're the first one of the day, so you get me fresh.
Oh, good, good.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know what that means at this age.
I don't know how you do as many as you do. You're just, I mean, first of all, throughout all the years, but even with this album, you've been doing so many reviews or interviews, and I'm sure you're just exhausted. But you seem like a extroverted person, so maybe it's something that gives you energy.
I think it's part of the reward of touring. You go around the world for 35, 38 years and you meet all these people and you part of it is the meeting of the people, I suppose. I mean, the commonality or the love of the music, etc. So I suppose I get a jolt of energy. Every now and then I go, oh God, not this fucking asshole again. And even the asshole who's listening right now is going, oh, yeah, I know what he means. It can't be me.
I'm one of his favorites.
Of course.
Oh, so with having that kind of personality, and having those, relationships or being able to connect with people, how was it during the pandemic? Was that really difficult for you to not have that exchange of energy with others?
It was weird, but I also, contrary to that, and I think this is probably somewhere about balance. I mean, I don't have a problem being alone. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just not, I'm not totally freaked out. Like I have to have accolades. I'd rather not have accolades. I'd rather go out with my buddies and have a few beers after after the show than somebody tell me how great I am, or even regular conversation. It kind of, I suppose that, for me during a pandemic, though there was not a lot of social contact, I was on my motorcycle a lot. I eventually ended up adopting a dog because I love having
Oh,
dogs around. Um, Talked here and there, but I went to the record and I went to the demo a lot because it was just kind of that little slice of heaven in all the hell that was surrounding it, or the sanity in the insanity. So it
yeah.
just seemed normal, to go there, and that kind of I suppose that kind of fulfilled the need of, I don't, you can't say social, but for sure something that seemed productive and worthwhile.
Right, that was missing during that time. Well, I mean, music is therapy away from therapy for everybody. So I can only imagine with creating your own music, it's even that much more amplified. And so being able to have that during, yeah, a difficult time, I'm sure was kind of the breath of fresh air when we couldn't get breaths of fresh air.
Good point. Point. It's yeah, it was a go-to. It was just like a go-to place. The sports were knocked off, and I was like, oh, I'll sit around the pandemic. I'll watch the hockey playoffs. Nope.
Yeah.
Baseball's coming. Nope. All the stuff that I like as just a person. So it was the bike, and again the dog, and kind of the house with an echo in it, and stuff just started happening. Just started figuring shit out. I may have got dirty here a couple of times. I can't. I read on the internet, it's like the governor of New Jersey thinking of shutting down liquor stores. I was like, oh no, now what the fuck am I gonna do? Not that I was sitting here loaded the whole time, but I was like, shit. I mean, occasionally I like to have a few beers. But it was a good it was the first time I've ever written a record, or my part of the record, under those type of circumstances
Yeah.
of isolationism and being comfortable just with myself. So I think that the results actually came out good once I got a handle on what the whole fucking thing meant. Did it mean, oh, this is the end, or did it mean, something we could push back against this? This is bullshit. So I chose B, and I obviously in my opinion, came out with something that was very positively reflective of the personality of the band as well as myself.
Yeah, it's an incredible album. More diversity than maybe previously, maybe a little bit more progressive. Um, It's an incredible album. I've listened to it multiple times. I'm really enjoying it. I think Twist of the Wick is the one that continues to get stuck in my head. I'll be, cleaning and it's just going, 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 and I'll be like, "What is that song? Oh, that's that new Overkill song." So that's been the good earworm that has stuck with me.
Jason blast beat death metal Bittner. Everything. We did some of the fastest shit we've ever done and some of the slowest stuff. I mean, how do you fucking put that in a quilt and tie it all together, and make it look
Right?
like one thing? I think that was the big deal about it. But I think it's, the results are, or at least my results are the product of that, of the pandemic or the isolationism. But, you write a song like Twist of the Wick and you can't be, it can't be like, pour me, pour me, pour me another drink, oh my God, woe is me. It's got to have some kind of positive pushback energy, and that from a lyrical standpoint, just a generalization, it's an old kind of a biker expression of twisting the wick. It's you put your hands on it, you get the fuck out of there, man. so so I was brought up by guys on two wheels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I get the mental. I guess you can get that from talking to me that I have a finger or a foot in that lifestyle. But but I think that instead of, that negativity or being surrounded by the dark clouds of the pandemic, which was the first set of lyrics for sure. I mean, I was just like, who's this? Who wrote this fucking thing? I mean, what douchebag sent me this to depress me even more so?
Oh.
And it was me. So, so, so I tore it down and I did that again. I mean, I saved pieces. But Twist of the Wick was something, it was the hardest song I had to do in the whole record. And you wouldn't think it would be, because I thought, I look, I'm going, this is right in my fucking wheelhouse. But then I finally got to that title and married the kind of progressive thrash to a really traditional type heavy metal chorus. And, Danny coming in the center with his, his monk choir. I was like, where do you got these monks out in the garage? This is sick, man. It sounds like Dutch beer and cloaks, in there. But it was it was a great result, and I just didn't see the result until after it was done. And I think that's because of the work everyone put into it. They were all like they were really focused on their own input to it, or at least I was. And then when they played it to me, I was like, who put these monks in here? And then it's like, oh, that was me. That's been in there for 3 months. I'm like, I haven't even been listening to the whole song. I've been doing it in pieces, But it was a good result, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so along with, you said it was like the depressing part that you kind of had to do some shifts with because you didn't want it to come out that way. I mean, that's kind of how it is with life anyways. You go through those dark times and there's those silver linings on the other side. So I think it's really cool that you got to have that time and space to be able to shift that to the other perspective that thankfully we do get during tough times. Usually if we're paying attention.
I mean, it's a good point. I was going through something back in the '90s, and it was actually when I was riding with a bunch of guys, and it was this part of my face was torn off, and wasn't worried about the look of it. I was just kind of worried about what the outcome is going to be, because there was this period of limbo where you were waiting more for tests and see how much it was going to affect me, for the rest of my life, and how long that rest of my life is going to be. And it was funny. I was sitting we're sitting outside this place on a river. I was sitting with this older dude at the time, and he just told me very simply, he goes, there's two sides to every problem, bro. You just got to getting through it's the hard part. And I was, and then I kind of applied that to the record when through the pandemic and through that isolationism, and said, wow, I have a very unique opportunity. I can make going through the problem even that much better for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps. Even when those opportunities, or not those, well, kind of opportunities, when those things come up again, that you're going through a hard time, you can think of it as an opportunity and be able to know that there's going to be good stuff on the other end of it, and it just helps you kind of get through those hard times a little bit easier.
Well, isn't it true that anyone who goes through a problem like that and they have positive results with it, and has their own little method of doing so, it becomes experience, it becomes a notch on the belt. You're going to get them. I mean, that's not the, there's nobody guaranteed, lifelong happiness for everyone. You're going to get those issues. And every time, I'm not going to say it becomes easier, but you can always go back to that time you succeeded, in your head. And I always think that that's really positive. So I kind of use that. I use that method to survive.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Okay, so tell me about Know Her Name. That one is one that I keep finding myself wanting to listen to over and over and over. It's a pretty intense song.
It's a conversation with and about liberty. It's just that simple. It's it's it isn't kind of free, that kind of a thing. You can't just walk into a room and say, we're going to change history. We're going to change everything because we want to. And because we think it's wrong. That's not the way it works. I mean, there's a whole, I'm not throwing this out from like a political standpoint. This is just fucking principle. You know what I'm saying? You want to paint the house, you got to pick up the brush. You can't just say, I wish it was pink, and it turns pink.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. So there has to be some work that goes into it. So it's a conversation, with, I suppose, the mother of the country. I mean, how do you think of your mother, or the mother of all democracies that have a cornerstone of that type of a mother? And it's not a feminist song. It's not anything except understanding that protection is something that holds you. Protection of what you love is what holds you close to what you love. And I thought it was just a good commentary. I'm not usually political, and I don't think it is political. I think it's more social, with regard to an understanding that you can't, like I said, you can't just walk in a room and say, okay, we're done with this. My hands are on my hips. That means everybody listens to me. This is very interesting. It's my 15 minutes of fame, and we're tearing the whole fucking thing down. We're all communists. No. Okay. Next.
Yeah. It's, I think any of those talking points are important.
Yeah, I mean, they are, and that's what they are. They're talking points. It doesn't mean the other side's 100% wrong. It just means you can't. I can't even say you can't. You can do whatever the fuck you want, but you're not going to get any results out of it by just saying I want. You know what I mean? My father used to say, he had 4 kids, so I have 3. I have a brother and 2 sisters, and he said what was the words that we learned together were "kui" and "kanai," and there was always something after it. Like, "Can we have ice cream? Can I?" Of course you can have ice cream. Just go make your bed.
So you've been doing this for a long time. Was there, or do you remember the moment that you had that epiphany of, this is what I get to do? This is going to be my life, versus this is something that's cool and will be fun and we'll see what happens.
I really don't. I always wanted it. I always chased it. Somewhere back in the 80s, in the Overkill days, when it was starting, I mean, obviously I was struck by lightning, and it got me really high. And I said, I'm going to chase this forever, in my subconscious, but I didn't know that was a possibility. I do remember the first concert I saw where I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. That is fucking amazing. And it was in New Jersey. It was at a place called the Capitol Theater, which, I mean, it was a beautiful old theater, but it showed porno during the day. So there'd be like, six masturbators in there with beer. And I wasn't in there. It was just that we all knew the story, I mean, besides I was fucking 15, But it was about a 3,000 seat theater that showed porno during the day, and they'd have great concerts. And it was really my first real proper show, and it was Queen. It was Queen, Kansas, and Argent. And Queen was on a heart attack, and they opened with a song called "Now I'm Here," and it starts with that kind of a riff. And it was Freddie Mercury was on one side of the PA up on top of it saying, "Here I stand," and then it was over on the side, "Look around," And then when the whole song kicked in, he was dead center. So obviously it was back in the 70s. So there was 3 Freddie Mercurys, and it was just fucking amazing. And right then I said, that's it. We don't need to go to high school anymore. College.
Thankfully it worked out. I saw you guys the first time was at Gigantor. I think it was in like 2006. There was like Lamb of God, Arch Enemy, Opeth. It was you know, Megadeth. It was a stacked list of bands, but I left that show going, Overkill just killed all of them, just blew all of them out of the water. So much energy, so enjoyable to watch. How do you maintain that energy after all those years?
Just, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just part of it. You know, I mean, it's when I said I was chasing a high or a drug, I mean, that obviously is the amount of adrenaline that, you know, the brain says the body should have, you know, and it just, you know, just kept getting to be more and more over the years, you know, and I remember that tour too, you know, and there's always a great pride that I have with regard to how we present ourselves, you know, I mean, sure, it's over the top sometimes, but it moves and it shucks and it grooves and it goes back and forth. There's not really a lot of just standing around,
No.
you know, your hands in your pockets, you know? I mean, it's not to the point where it's like overdone where, you know, somebody's doing handstands and doing boxes on stage.
Thank goodness. It'd be hard to maintain that.
Oh, wait, hang on. show you. But but I've always been proud of that. And I remember even the crew on that. There was a specific Gigantor crew, and then all the bands had their own crew. And the Gigantor, one of the guys who was running it came over and he looks around and he goes, "We vote you guys band of the tour."
Oh yeah. He definitely, I can guarantee, was not the only one, because I definitely had the same experience walking away from there, just thinking, man, almost feeling sorry for the other bands, because I just thought they just got hammered by Overkill, every single one of those bands. Like, I don't even remember hardly anything from the other bands, and I enjoy a lot of them. It's not that I don't enjoy them, but it was, you guys just were so incredible that, you know, they were just minuscule compared to you guys.
Wow.
It was
awesome.
impressive. Yeah.
I wish I had exactly the same memory you had. I'd never be alone.
Right. You know, one of these days, maybe they'll have a way of being able to pull those memories out for other people to see, like through a VR or something. That would be incredible, being able to pull other people's memories through there. Right. I wouldn't be surprised with the way that technology moves.
Not in my lifetime, thank God.
I don't know. It's moving pretty quick. So speaking of, throughout all the years and technology and the way the music industry has changed so significantly, how have you been able to not only like maintain your position through it all, because you guys are not a small band, so maintain your position plus be able to kind of move with the times? I can't imagine that's easy.
Well, sure. I mean, we're involved in 3 or 4 different facets over time of how the music industry has morphed, you know, from, you know, the vinyl of us being kids that we wanted to make full album covers, which we're actually doing again and have been now, you know, more than a 10-year period, you know, into the digital world, you know, into the streaming world, into, you know, the cost. I think it's a combination of things. I mean, it's obviously a love of it. You have to reinvent yourself on a continuous basis. I mean, listen, you're talking to guys in the 60s. I don't even have fucking social media. I don't need to be bothered with this kind of shit. I don't care how many likes I have. You know, I care how many asses are in the seats.
Right.
So I have to have social media on some, you know, in some type of a form. So we have it with regard to the band, you know, to keep people advised of what we do. So it is the dinosaur that is also, you know, understands the what happens in the current day. So reinvention is necessary. You know, I also think that it's being relevant in the current day. You know, I mean, you know, you don't want to walk into, you know, the old vinyl shop. Or I don't want to walk into the old vinyl shop and there's kind of like, there's the Metallica record and the Exodus record, or Falling in Reverse, or, something new, Breaking Benjamin's over here. And over here it says novelty. It's the novelty. It's like Sinatra, Overkill. You don't want to end up there. You want to be relevant when you're releasing a record. You don't want to just like go through the fucking motions. You want to take the opportunity and, at least for yourself, feel like you're raising the bar. And I mean, I think that's what we did on Scorched. It's just, we had that opportunity. We squoze the shit out of it. For every drop that was in that wet towel, we found it. And I think that keeps you relevant and keeps you going through those changes. It's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who gives a fuck if you have fucking Facebook if you're writing shitty music,
right?
Or something that is just a redo, or it's like, it's more important how many likes I have than that riff being fucking great. So I think that's the cornerstone of all of it. But you need to reinvent, or you just get left behind. I mean, I run into bands all the time that go like, how come nobody recognizes this? Because you don't give a shit about reaching out to this guy, so.
Yeah, no, well, and that's something that is really admirable about Overkill. You guys, for lack of a better word, kill it time and time again. There is a recipe that works, but yet you still evolve within that recipe. So it still sounds like Overkill, and you still get what everybody wants and expects, because over all these years it works. But especially with this album, there is a more of an evolution, but it still sounds like Overkill. And I mean, it's almost like magic. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you guys were able to do such a diverse album that still is 100% Overkill.
That's a great take on it. But that is the hardest part of it. But as it evolves, you just kind of know subconsciously that you're on the right track, If I'm redoing this record 3 times, there's a fucking reason I'm not on the right track.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not me sitting overthinking it. It's just knowing. It's the feeling in my stomach and my head and my heart that keeps pulling me back to pick up the pen and change a melody, or something like that. But I think that's the hardest thing to do. It's like, I said earlier, how many, look at all these patches on the quilt. How do you sew them together? Well, you sew them together, and Didi is fucking seamless at putting riffs together. The fucking guy. And I said, this has to be the most riffs we've ever had in a record. The Surgeon, which was the first single, I think there's 6 different riffs in that song, but they seamlessly come together all the time. The change is not some dramatic change unless it's used for drama. It's a specific change for drama, not some awkward part.
Right.
And I think when he got together with Jason and they started sewing those riffs together, and then brought Dave in, they presented me with something. I'm not going to say it was done, but they presented me with something where I could see the finished product in my head musically. And I think that's quite an accomplishment over, on your 20th record. But that being said, listen, we have 20 records of experience, so the songwriting should get better, or we should stop, or it should be relevant in the current day. So maturity comes in, and I think that's how we sewed those riffs together.
Yeah, well, you guys clearly are staying relevant and are doing it beautifully. I know you have another interview coming up, so I'll try to quickly wrap this up. I want to hear.
I got about 5 minutes, so you can take your time.
I want to hear about Fever, because it starts off a little bit more slow and relaxed, and you think, oh, is this going to be like a ballad that Overkill doesn't, really do? And then it doesn't continue to be that way. So tell me about that song.
It's a fucking hard song to write for me because I overthought it. I mean, it's like all the answers to this question are in the prior part of this interview, because I was sitting there, and again, you're alone and you're hearing this echo through. I live in what they call a chalet. It's like it's in a ski area, you know what I mean? So it's like when you talk, everything sounds good in here, and loud because it's bouncing all over these like 20-foot ceilings, right? Small house, but it's a cool place for music. And I put this on, and I was, started writing those parts on those mellow parts. And I'm doing all this fucking whispering, trying to be moody. And I'm thinking, I'm not moody. I'm not this dude. I'm fucking ruining the song is what I'm doing. Ooh, scary. fucking skull tattoo on me. But, I was out, I was singing, I was cooking something, and I was singing at the stove. I think, and it was Ozzy. I was singing Ozzy. I just like singing, you know, it just keeps you, it keeps me going, and it sounds great in here, like I said.
Yeah.
So I'm singing Over the Mountain, and I'm doing something on the stove. I said, that's it. I said, this fucking guy opens his mouth and it's done. There's no big changes. There's no over fucking thinking a thing. Ozzy is Ozzy. That's all it is. There is no fucking, 6 points of Ozzy or 6 points of separation. Or how do you get around the world with Ozzy? He sings well. He presents himself great. He's always recognized. I went in and I opened my mouth and the mellow part was done. It was that fucking simple. Now, that being said, regardless of me just opening my mouth, as soon as I hit that heavy chord, it started breaking grandma's dishes in the china closet because the thing was so low. It was like, and they down tuned it to A. So it gave it was such a contrast between that voice opening its mouth and that first heavy chord that it became another one of those little ear candy nuances on the record. And I think that it helped the song come along because it just seemed, when I first heard it, I was like, wow, it's really cool, but it almost seems like something that we're not going to be able to do. But I think we pulled it off. I think it's one of the better songs on the record, or at least
it's really
most
good.
unique.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, it's really good. So is that one that you're planning to play live, or which one are you the most excited to play live?
Well, no, I don't think Fever will be live. I mean, that's more of a listening tune as far as I'm concerned. We're getting ready for rehearsals. We're doing, we've learned Twist of the Wick. We've learned the new single that came out on the 14th, which was Wicked Place, The Surgeon, and of course Scorched. We'll open the shows with Scorched. And we've done that our whole career. Maybe a festival will open with something that's not the current opener on the record. But the whole career, all the way back since Field of Fire, we've opened with the opener. The live shows. And I'm not gonna say we have more balls than other people, but I'm just saying you do it because, and I think many will agree with me here, you do it because you love people to hear that new shit. You want to be your first foot in the door when you're coming back to get together with them. You want it to be that first fucking opening song. Say, what do you think? You don't like it, I get it, but it's like we're still gonna present it.
Right. Well, and it's that like planting that seed of, hey, this is the powerhouse beginning of the show, which is always the most exciting, that curtain drops or the people come out on stage and you automatically have that, like those butterflies and that, flip in your heart to where you're like, yes. And so those first riffs are so important. And so then it's like, yeah, planting that seed of, okay, well, now go and check out that album if you haven't.
Get this weird fantasy video thing in my head where, like, you come out on stage and there's the opening tape or the opening part of, like, for instance, Scorched, and people are like, what's this? And then all these big metal gates come down over the doors.
That would be awesome.
Now you're fucked. Now you gotta listen.
People, like, chaos just starts happening. People start panicking and you're like, no, this is part of it. It's all good.
Like, some of you'll like it.
You're going to stay here and you're going to listen to this and you're going to like it. Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for taking the time. I know you got a busy day ahead of you. I hope it all goes really well for you and you get lots of laughs. But congrats on the upcoming release. It's an incredible album.
Thank you, Nika. It was great talking with you. It was a really fun interview.
Thank you.
So I hope to see you somewhere on the road.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. I'll be there. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.